Here's how you make 40 coasters. It's pretty involved and you're gonna have to be careful to follow this tutorial closely. However, it shouldn't take you too long to get to just setting up the keyframes for the rotation, which isn't hard. So the hardest part's probably just setting up the trains. Um, so I have this little sample train here. I've already got one fully set up over there, but I'm gonna use this as an example. So I already have the setup, or this car set up for Hammerhead. And so I'm going to take the seats that I want to rotate, which are these two. I'm going to group them into a model, and I'm going to name that model rotating seats. Then inside the model, I'm going to select each seat individually and to group it into a model called rotating seat. I'm going to open both models. So as you can see, we have the seat inside, or each seat is inside its own model called rotating seat, and both of those models are inside one model called rotating seats. So I'm going to select each seat and click Reset Pivot, just so the center or the pivot, do that. The center or pivot of the seat is where it should be. And then you want to select each seat and set its world pivot orientation to 0, 0, 0. Do this after you click Reset Pivot, just so it stays that way. Next, I'm going to add a part to one of the rotating seat models. I'm going to call it Base. I'm going to set its transparency to 1, set can collide to false, and anchor it. Then I'm going to make sure that its orientation is also set to 0, 0, 0. Next, I'm going to go back to the seat model, go to the world pivot position, copy that, and make that the base parts position. So now it's directly in the center of the seat, and they're both facing 0, 0, 0. Then I'm going to copy this base part into the other rotating seat model, select that seat, copy the position, set that base part to that position. So now I've got both base parts set up. And now this car is ready. If I want to add more cars, you can just, duplicate it and then name them like car 2, car 3, car 4, and so on. But don't need to do that because I've already got this train set up. This coaster has already been set up with Hammerhead. Like its zones and everything are set up, and its trains won't train one. But what I've not done yet is set up the 4D stuff. So you're going to open the 4D widget, which you can find here. First thing you do is click Select Coaster, and it wants you to select a coaster folder inside your Workspace Coasters folder. So I'm going to select the 4D coaster folder where all my stuff is. Click Select Ride, and then I'm going to select one of the trains. It can be any train, it doesn't matter. It's going to save the rotation for all the trains, but as you can see, it uses that train to render your rotation. So this thing works with keyframes. If you're or if you've ever animated using a software, you probably know what that is. But if not, keyframes basically just control the rotation at a certain point along the track, and in between them, the rotation is basically it's animated between the two keyframes. So you can drag the train around the track using this to control its position on the track. At the end, at the final position, if it gets here, you can just set it to 0, and that's how you get to that position. You can see your position in a more precise value up here, and if you want to change it manually, you can just type it in here. Say I want to set it up there to 500, there you go. Here is where you select or set the orientation for each point along the track, and you click plus keyframe to add a keyframe. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the station. The position is determined by where the front of the car is, so right here, like where it begins. And remember that this train does kind of take the layout backwards, so if it seems a bit disorienting, that's because the seats are faced backwards. This is the front car. And so I'm going to set, well, rotation is what I want, or sorry, 0 rotation is what I want, so I'm just going to keep it that way. I'm going to click add keyframe, and you can see it's popped up here. There's a little arrow on the slider. For the sake of these trains, if you set up the seats like I told you to, like with the exact same 0, 0, 0 orientation, then the x-axis is going to rotate it vertically. And so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make another keyframe here at 0 rotation because I don't want it to rotate until after this. Then I'm going to make it go up the lift a little bit, and I'm going to set this rotation to -45. Notice that you won't see the rotation until you click add keyframe. If you don't like it, you can just click minus keyframe to remove it and try again. If you want to move the train to any existing keyframe or select them or delete them, just click on these little arrows down here. And I'm going to make it go now to the top of the lift. I probably want it to start facing the sky around here. I'm just purely doing this off memory, so it might not be the most accurate. Or it probably won't be. I'm going to add a keyframe here. As you can see, the last keyframe right now is where the station is. So along the layout, it's like slowly going from -45 to 0, which is what that's at. That's where the X rotation is changing. But so I'm going to set the train here. And then probably right around here, I want it to face directly upwards. I found that 80 is a pretty good value for that. So as you can see, the cars, as they pass that point, are starting to rotate upwards. And I want it to hold that 80 rotation until right about here as it's about to crest this drop. So I'm going to add a keyframe here, set rotation -80. And then since we used negative values to rotate it upwards, and I want to rotate it downwards counterclockwise, I am going to set it to face right about there. I am going to set it to face um, -90. Hold up, that might be the wrong way. I think it is. Just gonna remove that keyframe, try again. Gotta fiddle with this a little bit. Oh shoot, I did it again. Can try changing this to, let's see, 180. There we go. Now it's facing downwards, and you can see as the trains crest the drop, they're rotating downwards. Then right about here, we can start the front flip, so I'm going to make it 180, so it's still 180 degrees here, directly downwards. And, you want it to rotate clockwise along this, so let's try 0. And that's rotated the wrong way. So delete that. Yeah, that's not the way I wanted, plus it's rotated too far. So I'm going to delete that keyframe, and then I'm going to try 270. And that's nice. As you can see, it's rotated in that front flip motion, and then I can make it hit 360 at the bottom. Jesus. Here. You can always go back and play with this if the rotation is a little too tight, stuff like that. And want it to hold 360 until right about here, where I'll make it go back to 180 when it reaches the top. There we go. Not really following the track the best, but just doing this for the tutorial, not fine tuning it. I want it to hold 180 still until here. Actually, no, it can hold 180 the entire time. I don't think the trains rotate through here. I could be totally wrong, but I'm doing this from memory, so who knows. I want it to hold 180 until this fly to lie. Just gonna add that keyframe there. See the trains are back, or the cars are back up, right? Not the cars, the seats. Cars are upside down right now. And at the top of the slide of lie, I want the rotation to be 0. Now, I don't know if this is actually the correct way for the seats to rotate. They could, might be. They could rotate the other way, which I just make it 360, no big deal. And I'm gonna have it hold 0 till it reaches the top of this Raven turn. Gonna add a keyframe there. And then as it crests it, I want to set this to 180. And then I want it to hold 180 until this last slide lie. At the top of it, I want it to be 0. Now there's a good chance I made some of these keyframes too close together and it's going to rotate super fast. But you can always go back and mess with it like I could do here, but just for the sake of time, I'm not going to do that. If you want to save it, click back and click Alt-P to publish your place to save it. And as you can see, there's now been a keyframes module script added in the settings folder for the ride, and it has all of the keyframes stored in JSON format. Don't mess with the script, don't delete it or anything. You want it to stay like this. If you want to go back and edit it again, you can just select your coaster again. And you might see this happen. I don't quite know why this happens. It's just not reading that module script correctly. So what you need to do is click back, exit out of it, cut and paste the module script back in. Select coaster. Don't hit Control C to do it. Select ride, select train, and all your keyframes have popped back up. So I don't know why that happens. It's just a Roblox Studio thing, I guess. But that's how you, if they aren't appearing, or the keyframes aren't appearing when you go back to it, that's how you fix that. And so now I'm going to go ahead and test the ride. Click play here. And wait for Studio to load. It's, famously very fast at loading. Sarcasm. Get in the seat here. Wait for it to dispatch. Said it's only 2 seconds. It's going to hold 0 rotation until it gets to the base of the lift, where we're going to see rotate up to 45. You'll see all the other cars doing it. See, they're all slowly rotating upwards. Then as we climb the lift, we'll hold this rotation because the next keyframe up here is also set to 45, so between them it's going to stay at 45. So keyframes work if you're not familiar with those. And then after that, there's a 70 or 80 degree or negative 80 degree keyframe. And so after I reach this 45 degree keyframe right about here, it'll animate and rotate the seats to 80 by the time it reaches that keyframe. I think I may have made them too close together, but we'll see. If so, I could always just go back later, delete the 81, move it to another spot, and then remake it. Or with the 45 degree keyframe, I could do the same thing, so it doesn't matter. You'll probably end up messing with it a lot. But eventually, as we reach the top of this lift, we will rotate upwards before we crest to the first hill. And there we go now. It's nice and slow, it's fine. See if this next one's nice and slow though. Might be too fast. And we'll crest the hill right about now. Yeah, it might have been too fast, but whatever. Front flip here. Hold 180 for a little while. And then when we get to this flight of lie right about here, flip back upwards. On the Raven turn, that might have been a little too fast there. Yeah. I think this layout might also just be going a little faster than it should. But regardless, you can always mess with the friction settings or gravity settings, and then you can space out keyframes if you need to. So that's all there is to it. The keyframe stuff is really straightforward. Just remember, don't mess with that module script, and I really would not recommend hitting Control Z. Bad things happen if you do that. But that is pretty much all there is to 40 coasters. Just make sure you set up the trains correctly, and you honestly should be set. Thanks for watching.